we have finally reached that point where we are going to divide a fraction by whatever other type of fraction we would like. So this could be a fraction. Hold on, Apple Pencil's not working. Let's try one more time. This could be a fraction divided by a mixed number. This could be a fraction divided by an improper fraction, or it could just be a fraction divided by a proper fraction, or just a whatever fraction. So today we're going to specifically focus on these two options here. And so by now we've developed an understanding of what it means to do fraction division. We've looked at the pictures. We know that dividing by a fraction with a numerator and a denominator is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. And so all of the rest of the strategies that we're going to look like are going to be based on this pattern. And if you don't remember what that is, there is a video from earlier that talks about, it's kind of like, I think it might be called Why Keep Change Flip Works or something like that. But we are going to be using this strategy because we've developed the understanding, so now let's just apply it. So when we're doing a fraction, or I suppose we could even do a whole number divided by a mixed number, or an improper fraction, or we could even do a mixed number divided by a mixed number, or a mixed number divided by an improper fraction. Really, any combination of these that we want, we could now deal with this. Improper fraction, I'm just going to add the whole list. Or improper fraction divided by improper fraction. Okay. All of that aside, we are going to start out with just a regular fraction. So let's say it's 2/3 divided by, we'll do mixed number, like 1 1/2. So we know by now that this is how many 1 1/2 we can make from 2/3. And so we've learned through our observations that if we have a smaller fraction divided by a greater fraction, our answer is going to be less than a whole. And so here I know that 2/3 is definitely smaller, so I should expect my answer to be less than 1. And that would make sense. I'm starting out with 2/3, and the size of the groups that I'm making are bigger than that. So I don't even have enough to make one whole fraction, or one whole group. So in order for us to use this multiply by the reciprocal thinking, we need to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So our first step is going to be mixed number, convert to improper fraction. And so because this is 1 1/2, I know each half is split into 2 pieces, and I have one of those. So I could imagine this. Here is the fraction that I have. And so I know that that is equivalent to 3 halves. Now, the shortcut for this, or the other way of thinking about it, if you wanted to look at it mathematically, is I could do my denominator times my whole number to figure out how many pieces I would have in all of my wholes. And then you would add that to whatever your numerator is from your fraction. And your denominator would still stay the same because the number of pieces that make up the whole isn't changing. So we have converted our mixed number to our improper fraction, and now we are going to, we are going to multiply, or divide rather. So we have 2/3 divided by 3 halves. Now it isn't super necessary to rewrite that out, but I would definitely recommend doing it. Take the extra 2 seconds to write that down, so that way you just don't accidentally make any mistakes. So since we are multiplying by the reciprocal, I know I'm going to be multiplying by the reciprocal. So 2/3 times, and I need to flip this, 2/3. Now we're left with a fraction times a fraction, so I'm going to look and see, can I simplify? And I know that 2 and 3 have no common factors, so there's no simplifying to be done. I just need to multiply straight across, and I get 4/9. So going back to here to see, is our answer reasonable? 4/9 is less than 1 whole. So we know that 2/3 divided by 1 1/2 is 4/9. There you go. So that was a fraction divided by a mixed number. And all of the rest of these, anything else that you have up here, any of these options, if you have something, your goal is to do whatever you can, and I'm going to write this, I guess, in orange with a big thick thing, is you need to make it an improper fraction divided by an improper fraction. Because once you have two fractions, then you are able to multiply by the reciprocal and be done with it. So let's say we look at this problem, for example, like a mixed number divided by a mixed number. So I'm going to scroll down. We're doing a mixed number divided by a mixed number. That's far too thick. Let's do a mixed number divided by a mixed number. So off the top of my head, we'll say like 3 2/7 divided by 2 4/5. So I'm going to figure out what would be reasonable. We have our greater fraction divided by our smaller fraction. So we know that our answer is going to be bigger than a whole. We have this amount. Each group contains 2 4/5. So I do have enough to make one full group and then some. I don't think I quite have enough to make 2. So I'm going to expect my answer to be between 1 and 2. So I'm going to use that mixed number to an improper fraction equation of your whole times the denominator plus the numerator over that denominator. So that means 3 2/7 is going to be 3 times 7 is 21 plus 2 is 23. So we have 23/7. 2 4/5. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 4 is 14. So I have 14/5. So I now have 23/7 divided by 14/5. Since we are using multiply by the reciprocal, I am going to write that down so that way I don't forget. 23/7 times, and then the reciprocal when I flip those, 5/14. Now, unfortunately, there is no simplifying that can be done here. 23 is prime, 7 is prime, 5 is prime. So really, if I was thinking, I would have picked a better example that would have worked for this, but we can still survive. We'll persevere. So 23 times 5, I know 20 times 5 is 100, and 3 times 5 is 15. So we have 115, and then 7 times 14. 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 4 is 28. So my answer is 98. Now, I can't leave this as an improper fraction, so I am going to break this apart. I know I have enough for one whole, which is 98/98, and I'm going to quick do a little bit of subtraction on the side because I just want to make sure I get this right. So 17. I'm left with 17/98. So our answer is 1 17/98. If we return back to our what would be reasonable, our answer is greater than 1 but less than 2. It seems like this would be a reasonable answer. So one last recap. When you are doing any sort of fractions, this could be a whole, it could be a mixed number, it could be a fraction, it could be an improper fraction, divided by a mixed number, a fraction, or an improper fraction, your first step, it should be to convert them to an improper fraction. First step 1. Second step, you're then going to multiply by the reciprocal, and then you're either going to simplify or whatever you need to do to get your answer in simplest form.